was so excited when I got my uniform. I was so happy. This was in standard 4, primary school. And I remember when I was taken to my class, I was super excited, wondering if any of my neighbors are in my class. And I remember the teacher I was taken to, the first teacher I was taken to, she's like, because I mean, obviously.
3, 2, 1, action. Jazzelle, welcome to the 20th Avenue podcast, sister. How you doing?
I'm fine. I'm great.
Yeah.
So exciting to finally be here. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah, I love the energy. Yeah, and you're looking stunning.
I'm responding to the hospitality.
To the hospitality.
Yeah.
And you're looking stunning.
Thank you so much. Make sure you Photoshop anything that needs to be photoshopped.
There's nothing that needs to be photoshopped. Everything is perfect.
Thank you,
yeah. So the story starts like this. I first met Jazzelle on radio through my old man. We religiously followed you so much.
Your old man, like your dad?
My dad.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. What's your dad's name?
Stanley Ncube.
Hi, Stanley.
Yeah.
Thank you for the listenership, which has gone on to generations, which have led to this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So the old man has been heartbroken ever since you left the airwaves.
Yeah. Hey.
Yeah. Yeah, but we'll talk about that later on in the interview.
No problem. There's a lot of people who want to know about that. And I guess it had to be you who was going to unpack and finally remove me from hiding in plain sight. So yeah. Here we go.
Yeah. So let's take it back. Who's Jazzelle Oratile Kebakile? Who's Jazzelle?
How far back do you want to take it? I mean,
just tell us who's Jazzelle. Introduce yourself.
Okay.
Yeah.
My entry into the world in 1982 was through my mother, Catherine Kebakile, and she's an incredible woman. She's currently a lecturer at IDM, and she lectures in hospitality. She's a hospitality specialist. Every time I'm in hotel rooms, because of my job as an MC, it always takes me back to moments growing up under my mother's hand, where she used to work at what was then called Gaborone Sun and Holiday Inn, you know. Yeah. And every now and then they'd have the kids of the staff coming over to experience the lifestyle of the place. And my favorite thing was to have a dagwood, the sandwich that's got eggs and bacon and stuffing like fresh. So that was the taste of hotel living for me, was the dagwood. And the sound of hotel living, because of my mother Catherine, was from CNN. Back then, television in hotels didn't have many options. The main options were the news channels, which you typically don't get at home depending on your level of economics. And our level of economics was that we don't have CNN at home. So the sound of fine living was the constant airplay of CNN, So sometimes my mom would, have us in the hotel for the weekend just so we can, have a taste of that kind of lifestyle. And for me, it born that. And to this day, when I get into a hotel room, the first thing I do, I play CNN.
Wow.
Then I feel like I'm in a hotel room. So that's my mom, Catherine, an amazing hospitality specialist, an incredible mother. She's a beast. She's one of the strongest women I know in this continent, if not the most strongest woman in Africa. My father is an incredible entertainment businessman.
Wow.
The late Nelson Magana.
Okay.
So when Catherine and Nelson came together, I happened as their firstborn. I'm extremely wealthy when it comes to siblings. Hello to all of them. I love every single one of you. And they're those that I spend more time with. It's quite an interesting modern family, just like most families. Not the cookie cutter type, but we make it work as best as we can. Nelson Magana and Catherine Kebakile, you can thank these two for the potion that made me. And I grew up in Bontling. I grew up through the hands of my grandmother. So I'm one of those people who was raised by their grandmother, Patricia Kebakile. Grew up under Patricia, ko bontleng le mama le papa ba ntse ba tsentse letsogo, as well as my mom's siblings. That was a beautiful thing of the tapestry of who I am is I've taken from so many people. Not just mom and dad, but like mom, dad, gran, Uncle Vic, Uncle Mike, Auntie Veronica, Uncle Tapelo. Like there was an eclectic collection of family that raised me. Being the first of our generation of grandchildren for Patricia. Patricia is primarily responsible for my relationship with God.
Okay.
Because that's how she raised us. She raised us on a healthy dose of mudimo. And her concept was God wasn't an entity that was being visited at church, or external entities, and it's an entity that we intimately live with. That's how my grandmother raised us, and so that's the early start. You wanted to start at the beginning of who
the foundation.
Jazz is. That's the grounds of who I am. I was raised in the city of Gaborone. Papa ke mo lete, mama ke mo kwena, so you can interpret that as you will. But I have a lot of respect for Balete because of the blood that runs through my veins,
Okay.
And I'm looking forward to learning more about their culture and their nuances because I, in and out, raised by Bakwena. Yeah, and then I went to primary school Northside.
Wow.
First few years were thanks to my dad. He took his firstborn's education that seriously. When I say my dad is an entertainment business, I think I should go back to him actually.
Yeah.
Because I just swifted by him being an entertainment businessman. When I say that, I mean that my dad,
That's my hood.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Do you know Hamatlaping?
Nah.
Okay. When you enter Mitsimotlhabe,
yeah. Yeah.
How is it so hard? The first thing you see, Kahara, I think Kahana is a bunch of rocks.
Yeah.
And there's like sort of
I see.
Yeah,
that.
my dad used to own that.
Okay.
Like I mentioned, he's late now. It's been a couple of years. I don't even remember because I had to learn to live with the pain of dad is not here. And I don't know if we're gonna go there today, but we might. I don't know. It's a lot.
Yeah.
But my father is probably why I do what I do. Where mom exposed me to what she did, dad exposed me to the beauty of the entertainment industry.
Okay.
My father owned nightclubs, he owned restaurants, he owned bars and butcheries where people would come and perform.
Okay.
There's a South African woman, may God rest her soul as well, she's probably chilling with dad watching this interview. Her name is Sotukazia Rosie.
Oh.
She was one of the first artists I was exposed to, she came to perform live at my dad's spot. It was called Red Square in Mitsimotlhabe. And I was daddy's girl through and through, I'd hang on to his pants, hats, so I would be there with dad and I'd watch the motions of how he was, he had a flair with people, such a charming man. He had a way with people, I'd watch him interacting with different people, from those with money, those without, those employed by him, those who are bringing money into the business, those who are performing, those who are setting up. Like I grew up on that,
Yeah.
And so that's my foundation.
Okay. So I heard you talking about CNN in the hotel rooms. So is this where the love of broadcasting comes in now?
I don't know, maybe it was a dual experience like that. Personally, I feel, it's not like I woke up in the morning one day and I was this bright girl who was like, me, I want to do radio. It happened very organically. Yes, I became conscious of it at some point and I intentionally manifested it. I didn't know what manifesting was, this cool new age self-management, whatnot. But I guess we'll get to it. Let me ease myself.
Yeah.
I think I just realized I'm a little bit nervous.
No, you're doing good actually.
I think I just realized there's a camera in front of me. It's because my good friend is interviewing me. It had to be you, hey?
Yeah, no, appreciate it a lot, my sister.
No, it had to be you. Thank you, brother.
How the love of radio started.
Yes, and CNN. Maybe subconsciously growing up constantly listening to these people reporting the news and having a way with it. My personal memory that I remember, the thing that I remember most dominantly about when I trace back my relationship with radio, it goes back to at a significant point in my life. I was being raised by my aunt and my uncle.
Okay.
So there was Gran And then when I got into my teenagehood, Gran handed me over to my aunt and uncle.
Yeah.
And when they raised me, I had a radio in my room. And I used to spend a lot of time with that radio.
That was your friend?
Oh my gosh, best friend. I used to listen to DJ Sid all the time. You know, DJ Sid had this thing where when he finishes his show, he'd be like, he'd say goodbye to the listeners and, you know, just like reflect on the show's highlights. And then he'd be like, he had this song that he used to play. I don't know who the artist is, but the song goes, "It's not hard to love you, baby." You know?
Yeah.
So that was the song he always finished every show with. Every time. Like, every time. So at the end, just before he plays it, he'd say his goodbyes, and then he'd say, "And don't forget, it's not hard to love you." And then that drove me crazy. You know, I'd listen to the whole show just to wait for him saying that. And then you get to a point where, as a fan, you constantly say that. You know, you say it with him, you know. Yeah. So, yeah. I was listening to your DJ Sids, I was listening to so many different guys. I'm sure I was listening to also Bofareshi before he evolved to, or elevated to South Africa, because he did quite a bit of radio time while being. It's not that he was born as a radio god in South Africa, you know. He left home as a radio god, and he just happened to conquer South Africa and chose to, you know, settle in that space. So after many years of listening to radio and it being my closest companion, my enjoyment grew into curiosity. How does he do that? How does she do that? How does she capture my attention for these hours? And how does she play the songs that I want to hear? How does she know what I need to know? Why am I drawn to this person? Why am I spending consistent time with this person? What happens on the other side of my speaker? That's when I remember being super curious about radio. And I think I was probably about 14, 15 back then, you know? But yeah, then my first job in my life was, I don't know if I can call it a job because it's not like I was getting paid for it, but my first job was as a Sunday school teacher.
Wow.
Yeah.
Muruti chairs.
What?
Muruti chairs.
Well, Murutaban.
Murutaban.
I don't know about Muruti, but
okay.
Murutaban.
Yeah.
My first assignment was as a Sunday school teacher. I was raised in the Roman Catholic Church, predominantly in my formative years. Have had a very interesting relationship with religion. But anyway, I worshipped at the Roman Catholic in the main mall. And at some point I graduated through all my sacraments. And the next thing was marriage or teaching while you're waiting for marriage. So I naturally evolved into teaching.
Okay.
Spent a brief time in my, I think I was 15 back then. Yeah, did my Sunday school teaching. It's funny because I remember later in my 20s now as a complete adult, I was in a nightclub, I think with the village, Lizard Lounge. There used to be a Lizard Lounge at the village, and I was there having a good time. And you know, some young man there, we're both holding our drinks. He looks at me twice, and he's like, "Oh my God, you were my Sunday school teacher!" I was like, "No way!" And then, you know, he tells me the year, he tells me the church, and I'm like, guilty as charged. And then I said to him, you know, we had a good laugh about it or whatever, that we're meeting at a nightclub, you know, and he just remembers his Sunday school teacher. And I said to him, "Do you still believe in God?" And he's like, "Yes, I do." I said, "Job done." And then we parted ways, you know. And then I had a brief experience as a waitress. There used to be a Spur, Steak Ranches, and BBS. I was a waitress there.
Okay.
And then, 16 is when radio happened.
Yeah. The interesting chapter.
Yes, sir.
So what gave you the drive to be a hustler when you're still young? I know church is not like hustling, but it's a role that we all go through.
Yeah.
And then you worked at Spare. You're still a teenager. And then at 16 you start radio. What gave you that drive to be like a young hustler?
The need and the want for certain things that you felt you deserved to have but did not have access to.
Okay.
For various reasons, due to certain circumstances beyond your control. My family, from its formative beginnings, is not a well-off family. We didn't have a history of people who have done incredible things in certain spaces to the public eye. I mean, I've got amazing ancestors, respectfully to them, but my point is, you know, you couldn't Google my family and see people who are in the history books, you know?
Yeah.
They're just people who were living their lives. And we had our challenges, like I said, ask anyone who grew up in Buntling between the 70s and the 80s what that meant economically. Yeah. That was our life. But, when I got into, what was the question again?
What gave you that hustling
Oh, the
mentality?
hustling mentality. Yeah. So when you grow up in a family like that, with people that you love and respect, you know, you might not necessarily feel the immediate brunt of the poverty that you're living in, but ka lorato la ngwana, o eletsa gore o bone batsadi ba gago ba na le sele le sele, or you say, man, I know today we had to eat madila, which was made from the palichi we ate for lunch, which was made from the motoho we ate for breakfast. So then you see other nice things, and you want to. You get a desire for those things, and I think that's where the drive for hustling was born.
Wow.
And I decided at some point that I would like to have my own money to be able to dictate my own affordabilities from an early age. I guess that's just what it was. And it was an interesting mix because one side was on north side, north side, but you wake up in Bunting, you go to north side with all these well-off children. I think that was also it. Aside from growing up in, a humble home, there was also very early exposure to the finer things in life. Because I went to a very good primary school because of my father's investment, and I was exposed to young people my age from all over the world. All over the world.
How did it feel that you're from the Kasi and you're going to school with kids from the suburbs, kids from uptown who eat fresh bread?
Yeah, we're not making musoko buns.
Yeah.
I mean, it used to be frustrating to me. I feel like now it's one of my greatest gifts.
Yeah.
It allows me to be able to navigate so many things. It allows me to be a well-rounded communicator. But it used to be a challenge. It used to be a challenge where you end up not really feeling like you belong anywhere. You're just kind of in the middle point. Because I used to take a bus to school, and it wasn't a school bus. It was a bus that was owned by an old man, and that bus looked like if it sneezed. Do you remember there was an ad? Yeah. That ad always triggers me, but it doesn't play anymore. But it was also special for me, but it triggered me because it was like, oh my God, that's my buzz. I don't remember what the name of the brand was, but it was a cough medicine brand. And they had this ad where the bus won't start because it's so old. And then the little kid comes with this medicine and they pour it into the bus and then the bus drives smooth. That was my bus. So this is me arriving at Northside in this bus that you can hear before you see it.
Yeah.
And then these kids are being dropped off in luxury German sedans and, with their well-dressed parents, and I'm being dropped off by so it was an interesting experience for me as a kid, because once we were in that school, and I give credit to Northside for this, because Northside had a way of convincing us that we are all on the same level. We are actually family, we are actually connected, and we actually deserve the same things. I don't know how these guys did that actually, and I've never actually thought of it like that.
Yeah.
But they found a way, this is me arriving, I learned these things and I go back to Gran. And then she'd have to go find out what the hell tuna is, because I experienced tuna, thanks to Amatoya selfie. Hey babe.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, man, that it used to be a bit of a challenge, because when the kids would actually, sometimes when it's time to go home now, they'll be like, oh, Jazz, your car is coming, or right, your car is there, Yeah, I'd feel a bit weird, because now I was convinced I'm on the same level as these kids. So why don't I have like a luxury car? Why do I have to be the one that's traveling with this bus? What does it take for me to have that car? And then when I get to Kasi now, when I get back to Kasi, and all I ever wanted to do, my role, teacher. And trauma when okay, children, here we go, and I'm doing that Northside English, and these guys are just like, yo, dude, let's just go buy some magunya and acha and chill,
Yeah.
So at some point, my parents broke up, and that was an interesting moment for me, because like a light switch, there was no more Northside. My grandmother was like, no, it's fine.
Yeah.
And I credit her for the transition, because I was actually excited when they sat me down and said to me, Nana, you're no longer going to Northside, now you're going to Buntling Primary School down the road. Just a few meters from where we lived, actually.
Yeah.
My grandmother's house is not far at all from from Buntling Primary School. So when they sat me down, I was super excited because the frustration for me was never quite feeling like I belong with my friends. They make me feel like I'm too modern or too posh at Gasi. And then at Northside, little things. These kids would have the coolest, I'd have the plainest. The hairstyles we do, the things in our Tumblr. You start noticing little things. Oh, I'm different, you know?
Yeah.
So when I was told I'm going to Buntling, I was very happy because now I felt the ones I belong with, who are the ones I wake up with and sleep with and over the weekend with and left over at their houses if my grand's not home with, you know what I mean? Those are the people I want to spend more time with. But I'm fascinated by this world. I understood my world was Buntling. I was never confused about where my world was. But the frustration was coming from Buntling, belonging to Buntling, and now suddenly Buntling feeling like, yeah, you're too posh for us.
Yeah.
But I keep visiting this place because I'm getting my education there, but I keep coming back to Buntling. Anyway, yeah, so I was happy because it's like, oh, now I can finally properly, fully belong, you know?
Yeah.
And I remember my first day in Buntling. I was so excited when I got my uniform. I was so happy. This was in Standard 4, primary school. And I remember when I was taken to my class, I was super excited, wondering if any of my neighbors are in my class. And I remember the teacher I was taken to, the first teacher I was taken to, she's like, because I mean, obviously when I was brought into the class, they were like, okay, this is your idea. And I was like, good morning, ma'am. I'm from Northside. We do the good morning, mom. We're British raised, So yeah, good morning, ma'am. And they're like, I remember that was my first taste of rejection by my own people. When the teacher said that. And anyway, and then I was taken to another teacher who embraced me, and it was great. I don't remember if I had my classmates there, but I remember being very happy at Buntling. But it was very brief, because my then headmistress at Northside, Mrs. Dixon Warren, may her soul rest in peace as well, she reached out to my grandmother, who was very involved in my education. She'd go to all the PTA meetings, she'd go to, it was so interesting because she's the Musadi Mokoro there, but Sky, I don't know, she planted something in me. I think you understand what I'm saying.
No,
yeah, so they reached out to her. She'd pick up my reports. She'd go for those days where you sit with the teacher. Anyway, hey, dude, like, we're in Standard 4. We've been waiting for I don't know, okay. Why, when I was school, and then she explains, no, there's a bit of a situation with the parents and changes in our lives, And they're like, okay, no, like, the 4 years we've spent with this kid from reception to Standard 3, we feel it wouldn't be good for her future if we don't maintain that. So we hear what you're saying. Listen, we'll put our heads together. We'll figure something out. Then they reached out to her again, and they're like, listen, there's a scholarship opportunity, so we think she must come for that interview because she really deserves to continue school here. I don't know what Mrs. Dixon Warren saw back then in me. It used to haunt me before I got into my entertainment career and really settled into it. I used to understand, why would she pick some kid from Buntling and decide, what was it about me? I can't remember what was it about me that made her feel like, no, this kid must come back. But that's what this woman did. I think it was Barclays back then. Barclays had a scholarship, so Mrs. Dixon Warren arranged for me to go for an interview. And they told my grandmother, if I pass this interview, then I get a scholarship to continue my education until Standard 7 at Northside.
Okay.
And that's what happened.
And you nailed it.
I got into this room with these people in a big table, different races, they asked me questions. Then the next thing, a few days later, I got the call. Went back to school, and it was so weird because I think I was at Buntling for a term or two.
Okay.
And then going back to Northside, all my friends are like, where have you been? It was awkward trying to explain the situation, but I didn't have any means of how to be PR ready. So I was as honest as I could be. These are people I grew up with. And we just picked up where we left off. They embraced me. It was beautiful. Spent the rest of my primary school life in Northside. And even my friends now at Buntling, it's almost like I earned a bit more of their love from having spent some time with them. So we'd still hang out, and they were less fussy about me being the odd one. I was just one of them who's that one. You know what I mean?
The special one.
Hey, not the odd one, you know? So yeah, it's great. From time to time, I still pass by my neighbors in Buntling, and we sit there and talk for days. And then, you know, they'll tell their friends, yeah, this chick, man, she lived over here. This is what we used to do, and what, you know? Yeah, so that's the beginning. We've just done the beginning. Is this when we take a break before we continue?
Okay, let's just sit it off before we take a break.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you're gonna give me a break at some point.
Yeah, definitely. So, time flies. No, sharp.
Okay.
So, time flies now. You're now a teen. And all of a sudden, there's a 16-year-old on the airwaves, a Cherna FM, the Red Dot Building by African Mall. Yeah, how did you get that opportunity? I'm sure, but you're still the youngest person to ever have a show.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. I don't know how we pulled that off, but that's the facts. That's history.
Yeah.
Hi, Aruna. I'm still waiting for my, what do you call it, the Hall of Fame?
Hall of Fame, yeah. The placard.
Ola Eta. Anyway, so I was a Sunday school teacher, and we used to even though it was called Sunday school, we did it on Saturdays.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time there was always activations in the main mall, in that main arena. I don't know what it's called, but
it's now called the Diamond Square.
Oh, it's called the Diamond Square. Yes, by the Diamond Square. Thank you. Events that happened there that have inspired us to give it such an honorary name, and a very appropriate name. Okay, so in the Diamond Square there was always activations. Guys would have a stage there, and people from Radio Botswana would be talking about something, promoting something. There was always some kind of activity. Yeah. So when you were walking through the main mall on Saturdays, there's some action going on, somebody's handing you a flyer, people are there on stage with microphones and trying to send messages about something. Yeah. So anyway, we'd always be walking past those things, and one time they were passing out newspapers. I got a copy, it was the Daily News, and I got home, and there was this tiny little paragraph of a news story, a news brief, is what we would call it in journalism, you know? Yeah. The one where there's no pictures much, just the byline, the title, and a very short story. Yeah. And all it said was, there's a new radio station opening soon, it's a private radio station, and it's for the youth. Yeah. That little article captured me. I couldn't stop thinking about it since I read it. Wow. So for the whole week until the Saturday, that's all I was thinking about. And when we got back to church on Saturday, now with all my friends, one of my friends being Boto, she's an amazing hotelier herself. She's based in the CBD now.
Shout out to Boto, the group marketing manager of what is it called now?
Oh my gosh, now we have to Google it so I can say
Let's
the
just
name
say
properly.
Massa Hotel.
The hotel at Massa Square.
Yeah.
Hey, or one of that hotel, the Protea Hotel, there by Massa Square.
Hotel, yeah.
Hey, the Protea on somebody by Massa Square, something, you know?
Yeah.
It's not a plug, it's just Ola Eta. So anyway, they, Boto was one of the people that I spent a lot of time with during that time. So I remember one time me and her and other girls were walking, and I was like, oh my God, guys, last week I read this article, guess what? There's this radio station. I was so excited. And I think it was because I used to be curious about how DJ Sid captures me every single day on his show. Yeah. And now, oh my God, people are starting it. Could it be possible that I could go and see how it... I don't know what I was thinking, but it made sense to me that these people were starting the station, and I had to be part of it. That's what I was compelled. Yeah. I was possessed by this idea, Yeah. And I kept talking about it the first weekend, and everybody's like, okay, that's nice. Second weekend, third weekend, and one day Boto was just like, we stopped in the Diamond Square, and she's like, Jazz. I've actually almost had enough of hearing this story, babe, because sis, you're so young. How are you going to do this? But I want to challenge you, because you've been talking about it so much. I think you're actually serious. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to give you a gift. I recently found out that the guy who lives a few houses from us is involved in this radio station that you've been going on and on about. Yeah. And apparently they're hunting for talent right now. Here's his number. Let's see what you're going to do. We didn't have cell phones back then. I got home. I felt like Boto gave me the key I needed, Yeah. And I still credit her for that. The other day I met her, and I was with one of her staff members, and I said, this woman is the reason... No, we're with... my namesake, Oratile. She was, you know, I was with her in Boto, and she, you know, I was like, oh, you must ask Boto. She's the reason why there's a Jazzelle. She's like, really? And I was like, tell her to deny it. And she didn't deny it because she knows she was there, you know, and she knows what happened afterwards. So I got home, gathered myself, looked at this number, feeling like I got a ticket for Charlie's Chocolate Factory, and I went to the landline. But it was a cell number, so he was one of the few people who had a cell phone, you know. Yalla, yalla, yalla. Welcome to her voice note. Had the voice mail. Dumelang, ke nna o ratile. Ne kopa o botsa ka radio station ya lona. Message cancelled.
Wow.
Because I'm and then I went and gathered myself, came back. Hi, my name is Oratile. I hear you have a new radio station. You need me on it. Call me to find out why.
Wow.
That was my final message that actually got delivered. So this man says, you know, his name is Mike. This guy says that day he had like 100 messages. Obviously, I mean, everybody's trying to. Gaps are so small, so the news travels very fast. Everybody tries to connect, and almost everybody's connected to everybody, even if you don't know it. You know, you find a way to get there. You know. So he's got 100 of these messages, and every one of these messages sound like my first message. This is what he told me later when we're now working together. He's like, you know, that day. Yeah, he's like, yeah, everybody's, Dumela. And then here's this, yo, you need me.
Yeah.
Mike Proctor called me back because of that tenacity. He says he wanted to know who's this one who feels me.
So, how were the early years on radio? As a young lady, 16 years old.
It was magical.
Yeah.
It was magical. Basically, what happened with Mike Proctor is, okay, so he calls me and he's like, yeah, no, I got your message. You know, he's talking to me, he's asking me questions, and then he's like, oh, wow, okay, wonderful to meet you. Listen, we are doing auditions on this and that date. Come through, and we'll take it from there. Best of luck. And sorry, just one question. How old are you? I said, I'm 16. He's like, oh my goodness, I can't believe this kid just wasted my time. I don't know what possessed me again, but I gave him this long lecture about, this is very dangerous of you to say that because the young people of this country have such power, and the better you give, the more platforms you give for Basona to, young children. I don't know, I went on and on about young people and opportunities and not being ageist and, and he sat there and he listened to me, and then he just chuckled and he's like, look, come through for the auditions, we'll take it from there.
Yeah.
Went for the auditions, had no idea who the gentlemen were in the room. Because I knew her. Gabs is small,
Yeah.
And yeah, a few days later I got the call. You're in. You made it through the interviews. You impressed us in the interviews. So see you at work. The early days were amazing. What Percy Radikladi and his good friends Budumi Lopang did, Bokabelo Vins, Mike Proctor, visionary is the word. I mean, these guys were in new terrain. This had never been done before. Yes, in our country, the radio landscape was there. There was RB1, RB2, which we all were raised on. But this was now slightly different because it's private radio,
Yeah.
And how these guys put this together, they'll forever have my respect. So we were there, this brand new tribe, everybody pretty excited. They took us through intensive training of what it means to be working in the media. I mean, that was the first stage, is these guys sat us down before they gave us a microphone. It wasn't like you're hired, you're on the mic, go.
Yeah.
You're hired, now we need to shape you, prepare you psychologically. I really appreciate how they also went into the psychological aspect, that we need to internalize the fact that our lives will be shared with others to a greater extent than our consciousness currently appreciates, So once the red light went on in the studio, once we were now ready for the studio, it was beautiful because we had been psychologically prepared, about honoring somebody's time when they're listening, what you need to think about, and listening to radio more mindfully, and The early days were magical. It was amazing. I mean, Robin came to join us shortly. Dumi, Ramsden, Tatora Ditsebe, Miss T. Gosh. Hey, everybody's like, say my name, Jazz. Everybody from the early days. It was very magical. Brando. He and I ended up dating.
Oh.
That was a beautiful, beautiful situation. I think he was probably my first boyfriend, actually.
Wow.
Hi, Brando. Don't kiss and tell. You can imagine Lusika Seboni. He's gonna kill me. That's my big brother.
Yeah.
You know, he was there. Lusika, every time we get into it together, the first thing he does is he goes, Anyway, it was beautiful, man. It was magical. It was authentic. It was exciting. It was very potent. Big Duke. I mean, Duke and I still work together to this day. And, you know, we were chatting about our days, early days of Yaron FM, just recently, Duke and I. And he says, Jazz, do you realize that magic came from our raw energy? We were young people. We were eager. We were passionate about this new terrain. And we wanted to put in the work to make it magical. And it was our energy, our pure energy on which this was built, you know, and I totally agree with him. It was beautiful. From the minute the mics went on, I was working with the lieutenant. That was my first show, you know. Malcolm and I went on air, and from the minute that microphone went on, it just felt like fish to sea.
Wow.
Fish to water. It felt so natural. The first moment a listener called, you know, I mean, the first time the show went, it was magic. It made so much sense to me. My show was on Saturdays, Nikibala from 3. So my life was Monday to Friday, I'm a student, Nikibala from 3. Saturdays, Kikuti early days of the station, I remember, you know, in between the training, before we actually went to the Red Hot building, the very first location for Yaron FM was actually at the Grand Palm.
Oh.
Yeah, we had a room. They had put, I think it's because they had their satellites at the Grand Palm. Maybe it was the highest point in the city back then, you know. There must have been a technical reason why they chose that location. But I remember it had something to do with the satellites were initially there. And the radio station actually was a hotel room at the beginning.
Okay.
And what we would do on different days of the week is all of us would come in at different times, literally to put in music into the system. To this day, when I listen to Yaron FM, I can recognize songs. I'm like, oh, I remember putting this one into the system, because we take the CDs and put them. They taught us how to record it into the computer and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
So we take routines, and I'd spend time like that. Sometimes after school, if I finished and I didn't have assignments, I'd go to Grand Palm. And I want to credit these guys again, because these guys were working with a teenager, a girl.
Yeah.
And I think they really deserve for me to give them their flowers, because these guys took such good care of me.
Yeah.
I apologize. I don't have a horrific story about abuse.
Wow.
I apologize. I don't have a horrific story about drug use. I don't have a horrific story about sexualization. It was these men took on the responsibility of having a vulnerable, very excited kid. And all they put into my life was helping me to hone what they clearly recognized, because they're visionaries. They recognize, well, we've got something special here, and it's at a very raw stage. They did their best. I feel we could have done better in certain instances, but every time I look at what's happening with the entertainment industry, when you hear about child stars and the challenges they go through, and you hear these shocking stories from your Hollywoods and such, I'm always like, yeah, but I was 16, guys.
Yeah.
Nobody took advantage of me. I mean, me and Brando dated, but that's what teenagers do. They date, you know. I can't say Brando took advantage of me. I wanted to date Brando. In fact, we used to hide from the guys because they didn't really like it. And I didn't understand why, because I was in love with this guy and his color coordination. He used to color coordinate Brando. But like, you know, we used to hide from them. I'd say to him, listen, they're coming, bye, you know? Because I think they sat us down at some point and tried to say, listen, you guys are supposed to be working together, not falling in love.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. There's always going to be that couple, you know?
Okay. Bonnie and Clyde.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And yeah, these guys really, they were good to me. To this day, we might not be as super close as I would like us to be, or as I would have thought we are, but harakopana, I don't turn the other way.
It's all love.
Yeah, harakopana straight, and we acknowledge each other, and I have so much gratitude for them. I mean, people like Gabelo Vins, I ended up working for him. He taught me the magic of public relations. I like to explain to people that the reason I'm a badass MC right now is because Gabelo Vins taught me PR. So
Yeah.
I think like a PR strategist when I prepare for an MC job, you know? Yeah, so it's been an amazing journey doing it. This is actually a very healthy process, eh?
Yeah.
You're helping me reflect on things I haven't reflected on.
We should
in
write a
very long
book.
time. Yeah, I'd like to do that actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's in the works. I realized that there's a story here.
Yeah.
I started my relationship with the microphone at 16. I'm
Yeah.
turning 40 this July.
Yeah.
And I'm still on the mic.
Still on the
There has to be a
rocking
story
it.
there. And I've been through so many stages. I mean, imagine starting as a teenager and then into your 20s, and then 22 I had my daughter, and relationships, breakups, trauma, depression. Still the microphone was there. Like through all of this. Gaborone, Cape Town, PR, still
Rocking it.
microphone. You know, my most consistent relationship, guys, is with Mike. And I'm not talking about Mike Proctor. That's my big brother who opened a door for me, and I will forever respect him for that. Mike, because I'm 16. MIC.
Yeah.
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 So Mike. I think we even have some kids. New generation. Yeah.
Yes. So the fame comes in. You're young.
Woo, thank God there was no social media back then.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my God!
I'm saying, but then you were young and you had this powerful voice, like a bold voice, a
Yeah.
commanding voice on radio.
Yeah, I think that was just natural talent. I think I was just very lucky. I think God gave me a gift.
Yeah.
And I was lucky to meet people who nurtured that gift, which was the Yarn FM family in the beginning, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah.
So how did you handle the fame? You're still young here.
It didn't really affect me much because, like I said, there was no social media back then. You know, you didn't really post yourself after your show. You didn't have the now famous picture of, look at me, I'm in the studio with a microphone and headphones on. You didn't have any of that. So once you left the studio, you were just another Motswana person. So
Okay.
fame was nicely balanced.
Yeah.
It was only if you spoke.
So now you're working. Do you go to tertiary or you just continue working?
Yeah, that's where my relationship with the RNFM gets a bit emotional. I think I should share this. I mean, when else will I be able to share it? And guys, I'm going to say things that some of you haven't heard. I'm talking to my RNFM family. I'm going to share some stuff that you might have not heard before because you don't know my side or what I've been thinking psychologically about our relationship. But I want you to know, and when we meet, let me know what you thought. This was a family.
Yeah.
You know, we built something beautiful. Yes, President Kadi started this journey, but all of us came on board and we were invested in it, you know. Gebala Form 3, Gebala Form 4, Gebala Form 5. When Form 5 came on board, yes, my family had been supportive of my career. And from my first year in Form 3, I knew this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. You know, I knew this is what I want to do. Come Form 5, my family sat me down and said, we love you. We're proud of you that you have your own income. But it's time to go to school. Radio will still be here when you come back. I didn't want to go. If it was up to me, I would have never left Yarn FM. I'll probably still be working there to this day. It's something I hold Owen Rampa highly in my regard. I hold him very highly because of that. Because Owen is that unicorn. He managed to stay. So for me, it's always a very soft issue for me because or a close issue to my heart because I'm the one who didn't stay.
Yeah.
Beyond my control. And I felt like I got punished for that actually. That was my feeling. Like, oh, she left us, she abandoned us.
Yeah.
So she's not part of us. But that's you can't take away history, you know? Anyway, yeah, so when my family told me I had to go to school, I had to accept that, I had to embrace it. Sat down with my RNFM family, I told them the situation, they're like, okay, no, we understand. That's actually when Tseponsole came to join Yarn FM.
Oh,
because
okay.
they now needed, at that point when I had to leave start thinking about preparing us for me to leave after Form 5 to go to tertiary. I was doing the 9 to 5 Mondays to, what was I doing? Hey, my ears are confused. I did 9 to 5, 9 to 12,
9 to
Monday
12.
to Fridays in my gap year.
Okay.
Hage is up on 5 now, and I had nothing to do for the year, but next year I'm going to school.
Yeah.
This year I was doing 9 to 12, and I was soaring in it,
Yeah.
So when now my family said, yeah, nice
Sorry.
gap year, you have to go to school next year.
Yeah.
What's your plans? It gave us enough time to sit down and figure this out as a family, go out in FM. And I remember the ultimate decision was we need to find someone to easily slip into this point.
Yeah.
Tsepo had found a home at Gaps FM. Yeah, so they got her from Gaps FM.
Yeah.
And she and I spent beautiful time together. That's where our relationship started, because I was basically handing over to her my baby, and she was now coming to join the youthful group because she was been with the mature guys.
The mature guys.
And Gabs FM had become this beast that, you felt from Yarn FM you need to grow into Gabs FM.
Yeah.
It was like, graduate. So it was very beautiful to watch her deciding to come back to the youth radio station when she was already at the pinnacle,
Yeah.
And she was happy because, these are people that she knows socially as well. And it was beautiful between us, that experience of the handover. And then before I knew it, it was time to go to school. So I had to think about what am I going to study. I was certain about the fact that I was meant to be a communicator. So I decided if I have to leave what I love doing, I have to study something that's going to make me better at it.
Yeah.
And I started doing my research, and that's how I came across public relations.
Oh, okay.
And I decided if this thing is the science or the art of communication, that's what I have to go and study.
Yeah.
Because I've been communicating for 3 years naturally, organically, with formative training, on-the-job training, exposure to amazing people like your Titch Mataz, your Otis Frazers. What's next? Go to the technical side of it. Cape Town happened. Thank you, Government of Botswana. I love you so much. And I went to study public relations in Cape Town.
Okay.
So my first separation from radio was when I had to now go to Cape Town to study PR. But I still spent time at the campus radio station. It was natural for me. I needed a microphone because it's part of my life. I need to have a microphone near me. But I have to tell you, that first year was tough on me because it was my first year away from home.
Yeah.
Home not being Botswana, but home being radio.
Yeah.
And I'd hear what's happening, and I'd feel like,
Which year is that?
I think it was 2002.
Okay.
2001, 2002.
Yeah.
Because Katie said from 5 to 2000. Yeah, 2002.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was weird. It was so weird being away, and I used to second guess myself. I think that's when my second guessing myself was born. Yeah. Before then, I was just, I don't know how I was created, but I just didn't second guess myself. But after that first year in Cape Town, that's when I remember being conscious of second guessing myself. Should I do the right thing? Should I have just stayed? Should I drop out now? What should I do? Then I decided, look, I'm here. I have to make it happen.
Yeah.
The plan was to do a 4-year degree course. Third year being the diploma, and then fourth year being the degree, and then go back home and see what I'm going to do with my life.
Yeah.
It didn't quite work out that way because during varsity, I happened to be in a very serious relationship. And it even
in South Africa?
Yeah.
Okay.
But with a Botswana guy. We actually went to high school together, and
okay.
We're like, we should break up if we don't end up in the same school. And then, of course, we both got our letters, and they both said Cape Town. And I was like, I'm losing my man.
Yeah.
So off we went to Cape Town together, so we were always together. And
this is not Brenda, right?
No.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It's so funny. It's funny you should say that. The other day, Otis was like, is Brando taking care of his baby? This is not Brando's baby, dude. No, Brando and I never got to baby making stage.
Okay.
And he went on to marry an amazing woman. They had children together, and he's doing great now. I think they've gone their separate ways. That's his story to tell. Respectfully to both of them. So, we had my only child. And I think it was early days, for our age. And I was ready, but we grow at different stages, and it affected our relationship. the challenges of trying to wrap our minds around this new stage, and as most relationships do, we separated.
Yeah.
It was pretty messy, and I take full ownership of my reaction to the breakup, because nobody forced you to fall in love with someone to a certain stage. Nobody forced you to, give someone such a prime space in your heart that when they exit, you shatter. But that's what happened to me. I absolutely shattered with this relationship. Suicide came into things, attempted suicide, of course, because I'm still alive. I stopped because I thought, okay, so somebody else has to tell my kid about me. How are they going to edit my story, I'm in pain, but I have to stay so she can know me for herself. Literally, my kid kept me alive. Thank you, Masa. And I didn't finish school because I had to come back. Actually, no, I came back, did my internship at Jazzelle FM, and was pregnant at that time, and I was working with Richard Richardson. I don't know if you guys remember Richard. What was his name? Richard Richardson?
Reginald Richardson.
Oh, no, wait. That was Gabs FM. Reginald Richardson is from Gabs FM. There was another guy who Reginald reminds me of. What was this man's name? I swear Owen and Dumi definitely know this guy's name, because Owen was our programs manager. Me and this guy used to fight like cats and dogs when we were doing the morning show. And Owen would call us for meetings after every show and say, you guys are driving me crazy, but you know what the weirdest thing is starting to happen? People actually listen to find out what you're going to fight about today, because it was a problem, me and this guy.
Yeah.
No, man, what was his name? Snap. He was a South African guy. I can't remember his name, but it's, he was very similar in personality to the amazing Reginald, who was my colleague in Gabs FM. Anyway, so I spent a couple of months doing my internship, Molaping, at Jazzelle FM. And then I had to come back. When the breakup happened, I literally was busy trying to slash my wrists. I didn't even make it to school. So when you look at my results, very promising student, and then there's a particular dark era where it's just she didn't even turn up. So I came back with my tail in between my legs. You get the lecture that any family would give you, any African family would give you. We didn't send you to go and get a degree of a child. We sent you to get a degree, but you didn't, and what's going on? It was a mess. There was turmoil. Microphone still there. Occasional ads, occasional small MC jobs. Yeah, man.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you're back home now. We are in Martha. Still working on radio. How's life now?
Life is amazing. I'm not on radio anymore.
No, I mean by then, like after giving birth to Masa.
Oh, you mean, we're not in 2022. We're in coming back to Botswana.
Yes.
Back then.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. How was coming back home? What did I do when I came back home? I don't know. I was just in a whirlwind. I was trying to find myself. There was pieces of myself, and a lot of shit went wrong then. I don't know. It was just like a hazy period. Trying to fit in with friends that I left many years ago.
Yeah.
Lots of manipulative people. And I think because of my natural disposition, I used to take for granted until very recently the fact that I am a public figure.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of the people who manipulated me back then was the fascination of how accessible I was. And the, what do they call it? What's that English word? I have access to her here, Yeah. I don't know, it was a weird period. I really wish I could go back to my 20s from after 22 and do things much differently. I would, mind who my friends are. I would mind who I allow close. I would mind how much time I spend with people. I would mind how much of my energy I share. And I'd be so much more spiritual. So much more. I don't know how God allowed me to get away with surviving my 20s, because I was supposed to get wiped out in my 20s, and somehow he kept me before I even knew how to acknowledge him and worship him on a regular like I do now. It always humbles me. But yeah, then Gabs FM happened at some point.
Yeah.
Into my late 20s, and they became my new family.
Yeah.
It was amazing. Working at Gabs FM was great. It was magical. I was doing what I love again. I spent quite a bit of time there and eventually left because of, the reason why most of us have left radio.
What's the reason?
I fell into that one, didn't I? Fell into that question.
Yeah. Yeah.
You see, there's a problem with once you have experience, you understand what it takes to do your job. You understand what the deliverables are.
Yeah.
And you understand your worth. In the event that the people you are serving, as in the people who have employed you, in the event that they don't understand the value of talent retention, there's going to be a problem. If they're not willing to invest in talent, there's a problem. If they're not willing to coexist with personality brands and company brands, there's a problem.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden now you want to pay me way less than I deserve. And I know how much psychological impact it takes for me to wake up and come and do a morning show. I have to wake up at 4 a.m. or 3 a.m. because I have to be fully awake by 6 a.m. when I'm waking you up. How much am I getting paid for that? Is it okay that I must be now stuck waiting for a cab in the rain and I can't even afford to pay my cab, or I can't afford rent? How am I serving someone who can afford a certain lifestyle? If my listener can afford a certain lifestyle, does it not mean I should have a similar lifestyle to them so I can serve them better and keep them here so we can make money from their audience? So if you're not allowing me to afford the same lifestyle as my listener, how are we winning? How am I able to serve these people if I don't understand what they eat, if I don't understand how they live, if I don't understand the comforts they have? If I can't even afford medical aid, how am I interviewing a medical aid company to speak to adults who can afford medical aid? There's little nuances to who are you wanting your talent to talk to. Those people who you want your talent to talk to, how do they live? Where are they? Can your talent afford to live that lifestyle and have a true pulse on their audience so that they can come back and give their audience authentic radio made for them? Because I'm talking about a lifestyle I overstand.
So upon leaving, like, you've never been approached by any radio stations that want you to come through and stuff like that?
Not really. I mean, when Dubai FM started, I did get a reach out. Yeah, they reached out to me, but we couldn't agree on money. I refused to do a morning show for the amount they were willing to pay.
Okay.
Although I was tempted because, you know, the owner of Dubai FM is like a property magnet. So early days, I'm sure he's taking care of his people right now. I love those guys very much. I love all the radio station talent and I have a lot of respect for management. But back in those days, it was a beautiful deal because it was tempting because, you know, as entertainers, we struggle.
Yeah.
And, you know, those guys in their early days, their whole thing was, we give you an amount to live your life decently. It might not be what you want, but we'll also subsidize it by giving you free accommodation. What? Yeah, I was tempted by that thing. You're going to give me a key. I'm not paying rent.
Yeah.
Oh, I was very tempted. But it didn't.
It didn't fall for you?
I didn't go too far.
Okay.
So, yeah, and to this day, nobody has reached out to me because I think at some point I became a troublesome. She's good at what she does, but she doesn't play with her money. So if you can't put money on the table, I know what the sacrifices I make are. I'm not going to make those sacrifices for too little.
So
I'm so sorry my listeners had to suffer from that.
Aish, still suffering.
So sorry.
So after radio now, what did you focus on? Because the hustle to go on.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I did a bit of voiceover work, which I never took much seriously because voiceover work doesn't pay much when you're starting up. You get $500. The thing is playing for a month.
It's now $1,000.
How does it change in your life? I mean, I don't charge 1,000 anymore. I charge way more than 1,000. I know what my voice is worth, so
Yeah.
ask the guys who I deal with.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I never took it seriously, but I used to do it. You know, you get your $500, you keep life moving. You get $300, $400, whatever. You know, the ad plays, it's whatever. And then MCing happened.
Yeah.
Didn't take that too seriously as well because it wasn't my comfort zone. I was very nervous about the idea of standing in front of people because being on radio, you used to having your equipment around you and it's a very intimate. You know, the radio studio,
Yeah.
I believe is actually very similar to a womb. But the baby can talk to the world outside the womb.
Yeah.
That's how intimate the radio studio is. So when you juxtapose it with MCing is so naked. You are standing there. If you raise your arm, they can see you. If you scratch your head, they can see you.
Yeah.
Whereas on radio, you just focus on speaking with the person on the other side.
Yeah.
That's all you have to focus on is speaking. Yes, of course, there's time management, music coming on, research, but it's in a cocoon.
Yeah.
You could be doing it with your flip-flops. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Bonang Ira made us learn you have to look cute to get on radio. Like, cause she dressed up for radio. I remember because I think I was on radio when Bonang was early days, and I'd look at the drum magazines and be, this chick really dresses up just to go to the studio, you know?
Yeah.
And then I'd see it and I'd be like, maybe she's teaching us something. Jazz, maybe like you should put lashes on and take a picture in the studio. You know, we used to have these things where we just dress up in pajamas and run the show the whole day and nobody cares about how we look. We get into the cab, you can't see it's a Jazzelle or what. You just keep it moving.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah, emceeing happened. That was because of, you know, Butumi Ramsden and OP, Olivier Pontu. Hi, OP. Yeah, OP used to own a company called OP Advertising. He's a very, very good friend of mine.
Oh.
Yeah, so we used to hang out a lot, and he loves my writing. He's one of the few people in this country that knew I'm a writer.
Okay.
Because that's what I was first. I'm a writer who's pretending to be a speaker.
Okay.
So he'd hire me to do a lot of writing work for his agency for different clients. And one time he was organizing this huge event, and he's like, I need an MC. Jazz, why don't you come and MC, my friend? Like, I know you're not doing much right now, you know. Look, you can communicate. I've heard you speaking in front of clients, explaining the stuff we've written for them. Come and MC, Nick. I'll pay you. It's not a favor, I'm hiring you. Yay, OP. Slut me in. Did the job. The bank hired me for about 5 years after that for the same event. And then Dumi Ramsden really opened the corporate door for me because she was very well trusted as she still is, as a corporate MC, as a serious creme de la creme MC. And there was a time she had to go, you know, a client wanted her, but she didn't have time. But she didn't want to just like leave them like that, figure yourselves out. So she reached out to me because she knew I'd been doing the F&B gigs, staff awards. Hey, F&B. And she's like, yo, I've got this client, this and that. I'm like, and then she opened that door. And I think because I came in on her recommendation, that's when corporate started trusting me. If to me who we trust trusts her, let's try her. Yeah. And then that's how the emceeing happened. I was never intentional with the emceeing. I never entered the MC game wanting to be the best MC in the country, or wanting to be one of the best, or wanting to be the best chick. I didn't have an agenda. I just wanted to get paid so I can afford to do a few things. Pay rent, get groceries. So if you're saying come and serve us at this 3-hour event, we give you $5 grand, you keep your life moving. Hey, I would do such a good job because all I want is when I want my money. I don't want anybody to argue. No, but she did a good job, let's give her her man. That was my objective. It wasn't about I want to be the best talent, or it was just about I'm going to do such a good job for this client so that when it's time to pay me, they don't think twice. That was my only objective. Guys start calling. Maybe I should do this on a regular basis. People are calling about this thing, you know, and that's how I became who I am.